The first one will be beware of information overload, like I mentioned before, right? The second one would be that focus on the basics. I think this point is related to my point on information overload, because what I begin to see these days is that most of the times when you pivot into data analysis, or when you start data analysis, you can easily become overwhelmed with a lot of things you have to learn.
Welcome to the Non-Linear Career Show. I'm your host, Chinenye Ogwadima. You can call me Nenye. Non-Linear Careers is a show for multi-passionate professionals. So whether you want to connect the dots between your multiple interests, build something of your own with all your skills or experiences, or be inspired by stories by people who have navigated this journey you're on, this is the show for you. You would find Non-Linear Careers on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And also, you would find the Non-Linear Careers show on streaming platforms such as Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and Samsung TV through the Alive Podcasting Network app. Now, let's welcome our wonderful guest, Hannah Ibukwe. Hannah is a data professional, storyteller, bridge builder between numbers and meaning. Hannah believes that data is only as powerful as the decision it shapes, and she has spent her career so far making sure that those decisions are the right ones. As a data analyst at Interswitch Group, one of Africa's leading fintech unicorns, Anna works at the intersection of data science, analytics, and digital payments infrastructure. She's a Microsoft certified data scientist, and she specializes in building robust data systems and analytics pipeline that drives smarter, faster decisions across teams. Beyond Anna's day-to-day work, Anna is committed to growing the data ecosystem in Africa, and she has trained and mentored over 50 students at Dare.io and serves as a data science lead at Data Community Africa. Two roles that reflect her belief that great data culture starts with great people. She's also a published writer and Medium partner program contributor with over 250 followers, whose work has reached more than 3,000 readers across platforms, including Marvin Analytics, Bildung. Anna holds a degree in chemical engineering from Federal University of Technology, Owerri, and is currently pursuing an MSc in financial engineering, a combination that gives her a rare analytical edge across technical, financial, and human systems. I'm really excited to welcome Anna on the Non-Linear Career Show. So stay tuned, do well to like this video, subscribe. For being here. So the first thing we're going to do is a bit of an ice. We're going to do a bit of an icebreaker session, and so it would have this or that question, and you just let me know which of them you prefer. Question is: are you a morning person or are you a night owl?
Morning, please, morning.
I think for me, I'm like, are you serious? Okay, so remote work or office, like in person?
Well, a mix of the two actually. Mix of the two. Remote work has its constraints, lights, network, and the like. But at the office, most of these things are set because you get to meet people. So the combination of it.
That makes sense. Okay, so are you a I need to plan everything kind of person, or I will figure this out as I go?
It depends on what it is, but most of the times I like to plan. Most of the time
Okay.
I just figure things out as they go, as things come up. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think if for me too, it depends. It depends on on the situation. Sometimes I would like to have some sort of plan in my head, and sometimes it just requires me to like go with the flow. So we received about like 2 questions in the dilemma session. So if you sent in your questions last week, this is the answer to it, so stay tuned. So Anna, you'll be helping us answer some of these questions. So one of them is, let me read through. Someone said that, so this is there's a situation where your family thinks that you're making a mistake leaving a stable career, and you know for sure that you're supposed to be doing, something else, and you've started doing that thing and making some sort of progress. So do you keep explaining yourself to them, or would you just let your results speak for itself in that situation? Question of what if would always be in your mind. And one thing I've learned, even in my journey, is that eventually, when you succeed, like everybody would celebrate you regardless of the paths that it takes. And then another caveat I want to maybe make is that sometimes choosing your path might not mean immediate success, and you might feel that that is a failure, but I just want to encourage the person that the fact that you were bold enough to say, this is what I want to do, and let me just go out there and try regardless of the outcome, is already a success in my opinion, and it will give you the confidence and open doors to opportunities, even if the first try is a failure. Then the next one is someone that is already 6 months in a role and they feel that it is harder than they expected. So their question is, do they push through, or do they even reassess that is this role fit for me? So that's the question. 6 months in a new role and it feels harder than what they thought. So what should they do? Should they push through, or should they reassess if the role is for them, or if they should quit? What do you think about that?
I feel like 6 months into a role is not sufficient time for you to determine if you should leave, right? Because most of the times it feels that way because you are on a different playing field, right? I remember when I started working, like where I'm currently working at now, and first few months felt like what is happening here exactly? Because I was on a different playing field. The kind of data I was working with was different. The kind of infrastructure I was working with was different. So just kept on asking, this is harder than I expected, right? But that was not reason enough for me to say, okay, I'm not doing it again, right? So for the person who asked that question, what I would say is you should take some time out to like assess where you're coming from, what you knew from where you're coming from, what their experience was like, and this place you're currently at, what kind of challenges is it presenting to you? Because if you feel like it's hard enough, it means that there is actually room for growth. And that it's been hard enough means that okay, there are some gaps, maybe knowledge gaps, technical gaps, or expertise gaps that you need to fill in. Right. So if you come into a role and then it's just very easy and straightforward, is it really challenging enough? I want to make the assumption that the person who sent in this question, is willing to grow and expand their mindset and their skill sets in their place of work or in their career, right? So what I would say is just give it time and see if 6 months down the line, you're still feeling the same way you're feeling. Because I feel like you might have accepted the job because you wanted it in the first place, right? So just go with the flow and try to see if you can feel it, or rather, first of all, identify the gaps or those technical loopholes that you feel like it's making it hard enough for you to go through. Right? So just make all of those assessments and then decide or give it more time to assess whether or not you still want to continue on that path. Yeah, I think that should work.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. And I like the fact that you said that 6 months is a short time to like decide. And I was thinking about this week how with generative AI and all of that, there's this need for fast answers, fast results. Like people are just psyched to that things should be gotten fast, while
Yeah.
in real life, like the timeline to adjust might be shorter than 1 week, or as you said, like 6 months. Thank you so much, Anna, for answering those dilemmas, and I hope that anyone out there that sent out those questions that we've answered it and it helps you in your journey. So let's get to the main interview. So firstly, I'm going to ask Anna. So who is Hannah? For people that don't know you or meeting you for the first time, who is Hannah?
Okay, to answer that question, I like to start from the I like to start from identity, right? My identity in Christ, because I believe it provides a reliable foundation of what that question answers, of who I am, what am I doing here on earth, who am I going to, and all of that, right? And then flowing from that, I am a data scientist, I'm a data analyst at Interswitch Group. I have a background in chemical engineering from Federal University of Technology, Owerri. I'm also a technical writer, so I write about data concepts, Power BI, SQL, data analysis, machine learning, and data science on Medium. And I'm currently pursuing a financial engineering degree, master's degree from Comms University. And fun fact, I am a huge, huge, huge Harry Potter fan. That is the book series actually, not the movie. So yeah, that's about it.
That's so cool. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, just let us know in the comment section. It's so lovely to hear your like just meet you outside. Oh, she pivoted from chemical engineering and just understanding um how like your identity, as you said, and how it impacts the various aspect of your life. So the next question I want to ask, like, how did you pivot from chemical engineering to the data space? What was that journey for you? How did you know that, you know what, Anna, it's time to make this move?
I think that journey, or as far back as I can remember, it started from my fourth year in school, right? So most times in universities, 5 year courses, during your fourth year, you are supposed to go for industrial training, 6 months industrial training, depending on your field. So on this faithful, or yeah, in my fourth year, I went for an internship at a computer manufacturing company in Abia State, right? So I happened to be doing that internship alongside some of my friends from school, Chemila, Austin, and I think somebody else, but I can't remember right now. So during that 6 months internship, Chemila started talking about data analysis, data science. That was my first time like interacting with that concept of data analysis. So I didn't even know what it meant. Right? So he kept on talking about it. I was like, okay, what exactly is data analysis about? Right. So he helped me understand what it was. And then still within that period, there was this scholarship that was ongoing. It's called Ingressive for Good. So Ingressive for Good was running like a scholarship for people. They would have to apply, like if you want to learn different tech careers, right? So at that point in time, there was some people that wanted to go into the data field. So I applied for the scholarship, I got it, and then I got access to Data Camp. So Data Camp is a learning platform, right? So they gave us access to that learning platform, Data Camp, for like a year, right? So I started using that platform to learn. So it was organized. Data Camp is organized into different tracks. So there's what they call the organization track, and then you have data analysis, you have data science, and you have data engineering. So given the fact that I was just starting, I went with data analysis. So took the courses, completed the program, and then just kept going on and on. And this was in 2022, right? So after that period, I went back to school in like December, right? And then in 2023, I was working on it a bit, like trying to work on projects, still taking courses and the likes, but I didn't really give it like full attention. So what I'm trying to say is that this pivot of a thing didn't just happen overnight, or I just woke up from my dream and said, okay, I'm moving to data. No, it was a series of like gradual events that kept compiling, right? So in 2024, while I was preparing to go for my service year, like NYSC, I was like, do I still really want to do chemical engineering, right? Because I had finished my final year, I worked on like final year project and all of that, and I was like, maybe chemical engineering and data combined, or maybe just going to data field like fully. Right. So before I went for service, I just sort of made up my mind that okay, I was going to pivot I didn't even think about it as pivoting. I just felt like I was pausing chemical engineering or saying, "Oh, chemical engineering, I'll come back to you later. For now, let's go into the data field," right? So for me, it felt like I was just holding or putting chemical engineering on a pause and saying, okay, now it's time to see what this data field is actually about. So I went into the data field and then started taking more courses, more projects, internships, and then we're here today. So that is about it for my pivot story, my pivot movement.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anna. And yeah, I know ingressing for good, and I love how you also mentioned how your friends kind of talked about it. And so maybe that will lead us to the next question on you've touched that a bit on how these opportunities or these communities that you leveraged in your pivots. So what were these opportunities and communities, maybe in addition to Ingressive for Good? Were there other communities that helped that transition?
Okay. So there are three at the top of my mind. There is so there's the scholarship angle, which I already mentioned, Impressive for Good. Then there's this company called Inomatics Research Labs. I know that they're on LinkedIn. You can also search them out. But during that period I was in early 2024, I was just scrolling through LinkedIn on this Facebook year, and then I came across their page, and they were offering free internships, data science internships for people that were interested. So I took it up, I registered. There was even an assessment, and I was like, I thought this was supposed to be free. So I took the assessment. I wasn't really sure of it because I had just started learning Python then too. I wasn't so firm in my understanding of Python. So I took the assessment. Thankfully, I got it. So it was quite rigorous. That is internship process itself was quite rigorous. We had several trainings with the instructor. We had assignments to do, and then at the end of the, I think, 3 months period, we had like a certificate and like a final project that we did. It was pretty interesting. So that internship also opened my eye. Thankfully, I took it seriously. So that internship opened my eye to, okay, this is what data science is supposed to look like, and this is what's entailed. I was paired with this group mate of mine. He's an Indian. I can't remember his name. I can remember his name, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So let me not try it. So I remember working with this group or this team member of mine for our final project doing the internship, and it opened my eye to a lot of possibilities in the field. So I was like, okay, this doesn't look so bad, or this isn't something that I would not like. So I was like, okay, I can already keep going in this direction. So that internship is the second one, and the third one is going to be attending Data First Africa. Guys, if you're a data person watching this video, I promise you this is not a sponsored ad, but please join Data Community Africa, right? So what the point I'm trying to make is that in 2023, I also attended, was it 2023? Yeah, I think so, 2023. I attended a conference, Data First Africa. That was the second edition of the conference. Yeah, 4 years. The community is 4 years old this year. So I attended Data First Africa in 2023, and I was blown away because I attended the conference all the way from Owerri to Lagos. It was happening in Lagos. So I attended the conference and I was blown away. The number of people in that hall, I was like, wow. So a lot of people doing this data analysis and data science. I was like, I have to be here. So during the program, or during the conference, they had several segments. There were keynote speeches, there were panel sessions, fireside chats. There were these breakout room sessions that we had. There was also a hackathon. The hackathon was like the most interesting part of the conference for me. So why am I saying all of this? Why I'm saying this is because attending that conference again opened up my mind as, okay, all of people here are not here by mistake. All of people here are not just chasing clouds. This data field is actually something that is real, and people are actually in it and making money from it and building a career out of it, and are even friendly enough to even put you through, right? So through Data First Africa, I broadened my mindset. I began to interact with people that were in the same space. So from that, I began to understand that okay, they have like a space on Twitter, the community, there's a whole community on Twitter, and I just took it off from there. So to recap, investing for good for the scholarship, then for internship, Innomatics Research Labs. I'm not sure if they still do internships this year, these days, right? But you can check it out if you're interested. Innomatics Research Labs for internship, and then Data First Africa. Data First Africa is the conference itself, but the community is Data Community Africa. So that's about it. And then shout out to my friend Chimila for talking about data analysis in 2022.
Thank you so much for that answer. The next question is, were there challenges that you faced in this journey and how were you able to overcome them? Were there challenges that you faced in this transition and how did you overcome them?
Okay. Some of the major challenges I experienced was information overload. That was the first one. Then this whole rabbit hole of doubting. Right? For information overload, it was a case of the moment you go online, whether Twitter, whether LinkedIn, whether YouTube, or you just even do a Google search, you'll be plagued by so much information. You'll be plagued by so much links, so much playlists, a lot of roadmaps. So at a point, you felt really overwhelming because you are trying to pick up a concept. You're not trying to solidify your knowledge on certain aspects of the field, that you are being besieged by this numerous amounts of information and potential resources. So that was like a major challenge for me. And then the second one was, like I mentioned, is going into this rabbit hole of doubt, and sometimes it starts with me because I wonder, oh, am I even making progress at all? Is what I'm doing, can I even see results for it? Because one of the challenges you face when you're trying to pick up new skills or try to transition to a new career, right, is you experience that initial, I don't want to call it initial graduate, but it's not initial graduate, but you begin to experience that whole boredom of, oh, I don't know if I'm understanding what I'm learning, I don't know if this is making sense, or they're just downright discouraged because it's not moving as fast as I think it's supposed to move. Right. So these are like some challenges I faced information overload, and then like doubting and imposter syndrome. So for the first one, what I learned to do as time went on was that if I decide I want to do something, like when I wanted to write my Microsoft certification exam, I knew immediately that if I just go online and start searching for information, I'm going to get overloaded with information immediately. So what I did was that I said, okay, first step, what is my objective? My objective is to write this exam and to pass, right? That is settled. The next step is, okay, I need just 3 to 5 resources, nothing more than that. I don't want to start counting 10 or start counting 20 resources that I can go through, right? So I just decided on 5, I think I did 4 resources or 3 resources, right? So I decided on 5 resources that I wanted to focus on, right? And then the resources were ordered in for the introduction to the after introduction, what is next, and then to the most advanced level of the resource. So what I did was that it helped channel my energy. So I'm like, okay, now that I've listed all the resources I need to consume, I need to go through, I'll take it one after the other. Right. So all of this thing helps to reduce or to stave off what do you call it, decision fatigue. Right. So I stated my objective clearly, right, and then I moved on to select 3 to 5 resources that I was going to focus on, and then everything else is just noise. So that's the most important thing, especially for people that are having challenges with information overload. One of the things you can do is just pick 3 to 5 resources that you can focus on. Everything else is just noise, whether they sound good or they're not good, just leave them and focus on the 3 to 5 resources you picked out. So once I've done that, or once anyone does that, the next thing you can do is take those resources one after the other until you are sure that, okay, this makes sense, or you've understood the concepts for which you wanted to even start learning it in the first place, right? So when that is done, you can now move to the next thing, or you can now decide to consult other resources you might think would help you, right? So that was how I was able to manage that issue of, or that challenge of information overload. Then for the other one I mentioned about doubt and sometimes imposter syndrome. So what I try to do is I try to think about progress, right? So I try to think about, okay, what is the issue here? Is the issue progress or that I'm not learning at all? Because when I think about the fact that, oh, I didn't know this particular thing some months ago, or the first time I learned it didn't really make sense to me, or for example, one way I do that if I've actually made progress is, let's say for instance, when I was learning overfitting. The first time I learned overfitting, I didn't understand what it meant because it sounded a bit complex, right? But then I found out that these days overfitting is the least of my problems. So I easily understand what overfitting is. So in for people that are not in data space, overfitting is a term in data science and machine learning. So pardon me in case you don't understand it, right? So the point I'm trying to make is that when you start when I have that challenge, or when I was experiencing that challenge of doubt and imposter syndrome, I try to take stock of how far I've come and the progress I have made so far. So what I try to do is focus on the journey, on the process, and on how much and on how far I've come, not the destination or what I don't know yet. So that is it for that.
Okay, I was saying that I caught what you said about this decision fatigue, and for me too, with every pivot I've made, I also see that happening because there's so much resources out there. This person is telling you, oh, learn Excel first, learn this one first, learn that one first. This one is telling you, no, do this one, do that one. And at the end of the day, I think what you said about like streamlining the resources and the things that you would do would really help you. So if you're someone out there who is in their transition journey into data and you're overwhelmed, just take this framework and strategy that Anna has given and put it back in your journey so that you're not overwhelmed, but at the same time you're learning everything you need to learn and getting the most out of this journey. Looking back at the journey, so we've talked about from studying chemical engineering to NYSC to learning and even working as a data analyst in a fintech and unicorn organization in Africa. So my question is, just looking back, is there something that you would have done differently in this journey? Is there something that you'd have done differently?
I'm trying to remember. I think one thing that comes to mind that I would have done differently is to shorten the time period between there's this thing that happened to beginners, right? When you spend like 3 months learning and then you leave it for like 6 months and you come back again next after 6 months and you're hoping to automatically know where you stopped. So I think one thing I would
Yes.
have done differently is to try as much as possible to shorten those gaps. So instead of maybe stay away for 6 months, right? Maybe make it 2 weeks or maybe 1 month. I mean, that was my final year in school. So it's understandable given the amount of final year projects, work, activities, and the likes, right? But one thing I
Yes.
could have done differently is to try as much as possible to shorten that time period between the last time I learned and when I start learning again. So another thing I would say is working on project. That was one thing I didn't take seriously when I started, right? Because I kept on, oh, I'm not sure I know this thing yet. Let me go and start learning again. So you keep on, I'm not sure I know this thing. You go back to taking the course again. You're just delaying how long it will take you to master like the concept, right? So one thing I was certainly do different is to work on the project as soon as I finish a course or as soon as I learn something. So yeah.
Thank you. These are really solid advice. So you probably heard it too. Don't just learn as you're learning. Do projects on it. So my question, the last question, and we're also going to talk about your book at the end. So please stay tuned to the end. So the question is,
Okay.
what advice would you give to someone who wants to pivot in the data space? So if there's one thing that just kept you going all through, what would that one
Okay.
advice be?
I think I've mentioned some of them already, but I think I have three.
Yes, you have.
I have three advice. The first one will be beware of information overload, like I mentioned before, right? The second one will be that focus on the basics. Focus on the basics. I think this point is related to my point on information overload, because what I begin to see these days is that most of the times when you pivot into data analysis, or when you start data analysis, you can easily become overwhelmed with a lot of things you have to learn. There is AI, there's agentic workflows, there is rack systems, there is this, there is that. So most of the times you are just tempted to like just jump or skip the basics and just move straight to learning about rack systems, about agent workflow. I mean, I'm not saying don't be aware that these things exist, or don't take your time to read about them. What I'm saying is that should not be your focus. If you want to actually build a solid foundation, your focus should be learning the basics. Do you even understand SQL? There was this um there was this image I saw yesterday on LinkedIn, right? Someone was talking about how like some people are trying to, if you know this gym, what they call it. I don't know if it's a dumbbell, but it's one you can carry from the ground. I can't remember the name. Right, so yeah, she was talking about how people are so focused on trying to lift that weight, right? And on that weight, you see things written like RAG, agents, and AI and the likes. Whereas people can't even use a 15 kg dumbbell, and that dumbbell, what's written on it is SQL, cross validation, overfitting. So all of those basics you're supposed to know before you start diving into AI and the likes. Take time and learn them. If you skip this foundation, or if you skip these basics you're supposed to know and then just jump straight into all of those advanced stuff, you're going to suffer at the end of the day, because they are speaking English, they are speaking some technical jargons that you don't understand. Even if you understand it, you do not understand it to the bottom, like in total. If you understand what I mean. So yes, the first one again, just to recap, is beware of information overload. The second one is focus on the basics first. Then you can move to the advanced data. Then the third one is find communities that you can join. I already mentioned one at the start of this video, which is Data Community Africa. Like I said, information overload, there's a lot of it of communities out there. If you just type community, data communities on Google, you will see millions of them or thousands of them. So this is me trying to streamline your resources. Join Data Community Africa. Yes, join Data Community Africa. Um, so yeah, these are the three advice I would give anyone that wants to pivot into the data space. View of information overload. I already mentioned some techniques you can use to combat that challenge. And the second one I mentioned is to focus on learning the basics, right? And you can focus on learning the basics by streamlining the resources you use in learning, and then just be patient with yourself. And the third one I mentioned is to join a community, because what joining the community does for you is that it keeps you around people that are like-minded, people that are in the same space as you are.
So much for answering all the dilemma questions and just the depth of your answer and insights and experience. And I'm sure that anyone watching this, wherever you're watching it, would gain a lot from it. Okay, so my question is, you wrote a book that would be helpful for data professionals, and I want you to talk a bit about what this book is about and who should get this book.
Okay, so you like you mentioned, it's for data professionals, specifically for data professionals. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, I mentioned that I am a technical writer. I write about data science concepts, data analysis, and the likes. So that book, or that templates, or that, let me call it a book, that bundle itself is a set of templates that I use in writing those technical articles I mentioned. Because I noticed that most of the times one of the challenges that technical writers in data space face is that we sometimes go into this rabbit hole of, oh, I want to write about this, but I don't know this, I don't know this, I don't know that. And then you go into this rabbit hole of trying to learn all of these petty things before you come back to finally writing the article, right? And some other times you are faced with this slow challenge of, oh, what did I write on? Oh, but how do I structure it? Oh, how do I take it from number one to the end? Okay, how do I create an outline? or how do I write on this concept in a way that it makes sense? Who is my target audience? Like so many questions, so many confusions, so many confusing areas, right? So instead of just allowing people to keep on going or trying to figure out these things on your own, right? What I'm saying is that bundle was specifically created for technical writers or anyone who wants to take writing about what they are learning seriously, right? Because I believe that writing, at least for myself, writing is one of the fastest ways I can know if I understand a concept or not. If I'm able to translate a complex concept into actual words that make sense, are simple enough to understand, and other people can understand it, it means that I fully understand what that topic or that concept is actually about, right? So, if you're interested in taking up technical writing in the data space seriously, or you are focused or you want to get into writing about what you are learning on a daily basis, or you want to build a career as a technical writer in the data space, then that resource is certainly for you. So go get it. It's on Seller. It's also on Gumroad as well. Um, I think Olivia can add links or maybe in the chat box or in the comments, right, on how to get these resources. So that's about it. Go get it.